Florida State fans, what is the state of the Florida State program overall?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, you are Locked On Seminoles, and welcome into a live edition of Locked On Seminoles. And thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles football with me. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. This is going to be a fun show. I'm going to list some stats here in a little bit, but I really just want feedback from the fans. I did a show earlier today, full on talking about the injury to Jalen Lucas, how that impacts the offense, Norvell's press conference, and then how I would personally attack the Memphis defense with what's going on with Florida State. So this is a bonus episode. It is fun. I'm going to upload it and put it on YouTube and all the fun places like CastBox and Odyssey and Apple and Spotify and all that stuff afterwards. But right now, I just want you guys to tell me what you think. I have 3 prime questions. I'm going to leave one up for about 10 minutes, talk about some things, some stats and whatnot, and then rotate the questions. And all of y'all jump in the chat and do what you can. So the very first one that I have is one that I think it comes up more than anything else. It's part of football, but I just want to get there and get it over with. Just put it out there because everybody's going to ask or say something about this anyway, and here it is. Will DJ Uiagalelei be replaced as the starting quarterback at any point this season? For those of you watching on YouTube, I've got this scrolling across the bottom of the screen, but to say it again, will DJ Uiagalelei be replaced at any point during this season? The reason I ask is, quite honestly, even though he was the guy they selected out of the portal, he's the guy they brought in, he's the guy they keep talking about, at some point you got to make a change is kind of how I look at it. I don't think it's right away, but you've got to at least be thinking about that in the back of your mind, and you got to at least find a way to get more reps for Brock Glenn and Luke Cromenhall. Is that easy? No. Is that something that can be done, though? Absolutely. They got to find that balance. You guys make a lot of money. You got to figure out how to do it. And while we're on the topic of DJ Uiagalelei, I'm going to read off while y'all ponder this and answer and talk about everything that's going on. I've got a few comments in the chat already. But Craig says, by the way, Craig just goes ahead and says, yes, 100%, he will be replaced. Thank you for coming in and saying hello, Craig. I'm curious if this is funny. I'm curious what he's going to do this week because although Memphis is not a quote-unquote Power 4 team, they're a team that has a chance to make the playoff because they got Seth Hennigan, they got pretty good running backs. Defense got, as if you watched the show yesterday, they got a nose guard that's talented. They've got another defensive lineman that's a pretty good guy. They got a couple of guys in the secondary who've got pretty high grades. One's got 3 pass breakups and a pick. They got some talent. If Florida State does not produce points, and I think 30 is the magic number, the first team to 30 will win this football game. But if Florida State does not produce points and the defense is out on the field during the first half, like if Florida State really struggles, has 100 yards of offense in the first half and 7 points, they're in trouble. At some point, your defense is going to give up more points because they're just tired. So if nothing else, they got to get rolling. I'm going to list off some stats, and then I'll jump in here on the chat. So anybody wants to comment, go ahead. I will get to them here in a minute. But here are some of the stats that I have for Florida State. This is just offense in general, and I'll have a couple on DJ in a second. These are all national. These are not ACC. These are national. Passing, Florida State, 232.5, 62nd in the nation. Rushing, this is almost unbelievable, but I had to check twice with my eyes, make sure they were good. 59.5 yards rushing per game. That's right, 59.5. That is 128th out of 134 teams. What? That is pathetic. Total offense, 292 yards a game. 116th in the nation. What are we doing? Points, 17th or 17 points. 118th in the nation. Plays, passing plays of 20 or more yards, they got 7. 32nd in the nation. Part of that, why is it? Why? Because they're trying to play catch up. Like those passes to Kentron right back to back. It's weird how that happens. Third downs. They're 106th in the nation because they're 8 of 26, which is 30.8%. Garbage. Total first downs. They have 33 in 2 games. Final rank for that, 109th. Tackles for loss allowed. 11 allowed already. 76th in the nation. Here's an interesting stat, though. Florida State's number 1 in the nation in red zone, depending on how you look at it. Only 3 red zone trips, which is bad, but they've converted all 3 times, but 2 of them are field goals. So when you talk about touchdowns, that's 1 out of 3, and that's not getting it done. 1/3 is a very low number. When you look at the individual numbers by Pro Football Focus, we get into some other pretty ugly numbers here. Running yards. We talked about how bad they were at 59.5. Well, the yards per carry are also really bad. 122nd in the nation, 2.53 yards per carry. I mean, good grief. Pro Football Focus also has DJU as the 92nd quarterback with a 72.4 passer rating. So, I mean, it's just bad all around. And these are just some of the numbers. I don't know exactly how this is going to go, but it's a reminder that the Florida State offense has struggled. If you just kind of look at some of these things, it's tough. I'll read a couple comments here, and then we'll get rolling on with some other stats, some other conversation. I want to chime in as well. But Brian JP72, if the L's continue to pile up for the Noles, I think he will be replaced. Love your podcast. Thanks for keeping it real. Hey, man, I appreciate you stopping in. First off, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Brian. Good name, by the way. But I'm not here to lie to anybody. I'm as blunt as it gets, and sometimes my honesty gets me in trouble because I refuse to be politically correct. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's yellow, it's yellow. If it's green, it's green. Whatever it is, that's what it is. So there you go. John Shields, Memphis is coming. Well, they'll be here Saturday. Garrett, I say you give him 3 drives tops this game. If he can't do anything, we need a change. That's something I'm curious about too. Garrett brings up a great point. Does Florida State, key here, does Florida State pull the trigger on at least getting Brock in at some point during the game? And if DJ just completely lays an egg, like throws 2 picks in the first half or something, does he just flat get pulled for the rest of the game? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, the problem is, like, this is just the way this kind of works, man. When you're talking about a scenario where you've got guys that are rocking and rolling and they're going good, you can get, the number ones get all the reps and all that. But when you have some ambiguity with the situation at quarterback, who's your quarterback in practice getting the reps? You need all of them, whoever's starting. But if you really don't have a starter, it's terrible for the coach because you can't pick just one guy. It's impossible. You just flat need a guy to be good at it. Like, there's got to be some natural there's got to be some natural talent and natural feel. And right now, I'm not sure DJ is in on any of those categories. He's certainly got the arm strength, but good grief, it's really tough for me to understand what's going on. And I hope that DJ plays better, but man, it needs to happen. It needs to happen. Like, DJ needs to come out and score, because if Florida State gets behind with Seth Hennigan on the other side, and again, talked about him numerous times in the last week or so, over 3,800 yards passing last year. He's a senior. He started as a freshman. He's one of those Dallas area quarterbacks that's played quarterback his whole life. He's one of those guys that has a lot of confidence. He understands scheme on his side and the other side of the ball. And most importantly, he's not going to lose you the game. So unless you get pressure on him and create like tip passes or just make incredible breaks on the ball, you're not going to get a lot of picks against that guy. You're not going to take the ball away. You've got to score by going the length of the field. They're going to, they might get a couple of 3 and outs, but more likely he's going to get a first down on most drives. You're going to have to go the length of the field, 75 plus the majority of the game, barring something unforeseen or getting fumbles. That would be ideal for the Florida State defense, turning it into point opportunities for the offense. But Hennigan's going to be very difficult to overcome. So my other thought is special teams here. I've talked about how good Mascherano is. It's well known he's an All-American. He's the punter for the Noles. If he's going to have a great, great game, like even by his standards, it would be good to do it today, or on Saturday, because quite frankly, you got to have the ability to kind of step up even more. I mean, I'm not trying to put pressure on him, but they can't give Hennigan shorter fields. because then that in return puts more pressure on DJ, the offensive line, the receivers, tight ends, and running backs. They've got to play a good field position and can't have any easy turnover opportunities for the Tigers. So let's get back in here to the chat. Some of these questions and whatnot that I'm bringing up, they're not that difficult, but I think most people agree DJ's got a short leash. As the boos get louder, the pressure will grow on Norvell to replace him. 100%. That's from Craig Pullman. You are correct. Let's see. 59.5 at Florida State, unacceptable. He's talking about the running game. That's what they average. It's embarrassing. It's flat out embarrassing. This might be a little strong here. Photo to George. DJ, you should never play another down. Season is over. Start the mobile quarterbacks and best young players for the future. That's pretty harsh, man. But you're not the only one saying that. Florida State certainly has enough people kind of going on record, whether it's on Twitter, on their own podcasts, on this one, on other pods, saying DJ's in a lot of trouble. And they might be right. Mike says, what's up, Brian? Go Knowles. Mike, go nuts. Hey, man, what's happening? All right. Norvell could lose the rest of the season and he won't be fired. This is from Storming Back You. That could be. I mean, they had a great season last year. I'm not worried about Mike. I'm talking about DJ. If they go like 3-9, he could get fired, I guess. But well, let's get through game 3 before we worry about Norvell. Coach Norvell is the truth. I truly believe he will get things back on track, and it starts this weekend for Mike. Yep. Noel fans would certainly like Mike to be right. Let's see. FSU has a lot of talent. They just have to play to their level. Well, Mike, I'll be real blunt. They're not playing to Little League level a lot of the time right now. It's been pretty bad. I'm not saying that you're wrong or anything, but if you think about Florida State, name something right now that they do well, and Mastromano and Fitzgerald don't count. Outside of the special teams, name something that Florida State does well. You can pop up whatever you want on the chat, comment on YouTube after the show's been posted, whatever you want to do. But really think about that. Name one thing outside of the special teams, because they got 2 excellent kickers, that Florida State, you can say, man, they're exceptional at that. Not just average, good, above average, whatever you want to say, like exceptional. I'm not sure I can name something. That's the problem. And it's pretty tough to kind of handle that. FSU will be more aggressive on both sides of the football. I would hope so. It does help playing a quarterback. He's semi-mobile, but he's not like Castellanos. He's not a guy that gets outside the pocket and causes you that kind of problem. Like Thomas is unbelievable. So I'm curious to see how Florida State's pass rush does, for one thing. They won't have as much to worry about there. Garrett, what was your instinct when we signed DJ? Well, I talked about it way back when. I didn't think it was a very good pick because I didn't think he fit Norvell. And just forget the offense. Garrett, I didn't think that DJ was a guy that was a consistent winner. He just kind of ho-hummed along and did some things, got a big arm. He's a good guy. He could make some plays, but he's not going to, like, there are 2 kinds of quarterbacks in my book. There are 4 and there are 8s. What are 4s and 8s? 8s are about the 8 games a year that Florida State should win by rolling out the ball because they got more talent. You need quarterbacks that are 4s because during those 4 games where it's similar talent, maybe you don't have as much, quarterback gets you over the top. How many games do you think DJ is going to get you over the top when you're playing a team that has a chance to make the college football playoff? How many? I mean, you just hope he doesn't lose you the game. So that's my concern. And to be honest with you, I don't think that's a very difficult thing to look at, but that's just my opinion, man. I'm not convinced at this point that he's going to change that. He's a 5th-year senior. So it's a problem. It is definitely a problem. So when we come back here in just a second, we're going to talk about DJ, but we also got a couple other questions I got to get to as well. That's next here on Locked On Seminoles. Have you downloaded Game Time yet? The Game Time app is an opportunity for you to get tickets that you want whenever you want right from your mobile device. Pick it up, log in, go and find something that you want. Florida State football, Miami Dolphins football, Atlanta Braves baseball. If you want to go to Atlanta Hawks game, whatever it is in the world of sport, you just type in the name. It'll take you to the venues. You click on it. You can look at the seat and get the view from right where you would be sitting to look at that place. plays, movie theater, concerts, all kinds of different things that you can do. And because I'm a really impatient guy, again, the quickness is part of it. It takes about 20 seconds to get through it. It's not very hard. And there is the option for all-inclusive pricing. You can set it up that way so you can get in and out and not be gouged at the end after you figured out where you want to go. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right. Next question. Will FSU's offense or defense perform better versus Memphis? Again, will Florida State's offense or its defense perform better against Memphis? This is a question that I'm struggling with even, so I'm kind of curious what the chat has to say. And sorry, I cut off there just a little bit. I'm not sure what it needs to be the offense to keep up with that, guys. I think Memphis is going to score some. They're going to score in the 20s at least. I hope they don't get over 30 because that gets into the danger zone. But Florida State's offense needs to play well to keep the defense off the field, give them some confidence, make Seth be a one-way player, meaning they got to throw to score. Florida State needs an early lead. Like 14-3 after the first quarter or something would be ideal. They need to do that. And for the defense, they got to be great in the red zone. They're going to move the ball. I'm telling you now, they're going to move the ball. They cannot give up big plays in any game, but if they get in the red zone, got to force them to field goals. Okay. Brian Calhoun, Miami fan. I may be more of a minority, but I want to see us both be dominant programs again. It's more fun when that happens. That's not even debatable. Let's see. Greg Brown, Spanish Town. There's not a team in the country who stinks in the trenches on both sides of the ball that will win many games. 100%. We've talked about this in live chats. We've talked about this when I've had guests on. I've talked about it when I've just done film reviews, talking about the game, looking back, going in and watching the highlights. It's just been a problem on both sides. They'll make 2 or 3 really good plays, and then they'll just get completely obliterated on one play and like just give up a massive defensive collapse. He run like it's 3rd and 4, draw play. Quarterback runs and gets outside the pocket and creates something, even when the coverage is good, whatever. Florida State can't get off the field in critical moments. Offensively, guy will be wide open, but DJ's running for his life. Or maybe DJ, you know what? He's a little bit gun shy because there's been some pass protection problems, and that's an issue. There's all kinds of problems here. NK, as much as I dislike Miami and Florida, college football is better when the big 3 are all good. That is very, very true. Let's see. That's all I want to see is what Brian says. Yeah, it's true. Everybody wants to see competition, man. Category 5. This is an interesting statement. Offense because it has to. This is from a Miami fan, but he's right. And I said the same thing. If Florida State doesn't get rolling offensively, they're not beating Memphis. They're not beating Memphis. They better figure it out or they're going to be in trouble. I'm telling y'all now, they better figure it out or they're going to be in trouble. So let's see what that ends up being. This is so funny. Here comes Memphis. That's from John Shields. A quick comment about the offense and what I talked about earlier today on my first show. I said they had to run the ball better on first down, but obviously Florida State stinks at running the ball, period. The stats that I just gave, I mean, what was it? They're 122nd in the nation in rushing yards per carry, 2.53 per tote. Now, I know there's a few sacks of DJ, and he's not a mobile guy, but even if you took his runs out, you'd be at about 3 yards a carry. Is anybody, by the way, convinced that Toffoli is 100% healthy? He's only got like 7 carries, 9 carries, something like that on the year. I'm wondering about that. But it is what it is. Florida State needs to figure it out or they're going to be in a lot of trouble because, quite frankly, DJ, or not really hardly any quarterback, but DJ's not good enough just to go out and throw it 50 times and smoke somebody. This is not Charlie Ward circa 1993 here. By the way, I saw Charlie recently. He's doing well. I don't think that Florida State is blatantly unaware of that point. But like, does anybody feel good that Florida State staff with how the offensive line is blocking? Is there anything they can even really do? If there is, what might that be? Because Byers is banged up. We don't know if he's going to play this weekend. They've got problems at right tackle. The backup is not very good. Jalen Early's the backup to him. Maybe he can start moving into the lineup. He's played a little bit. But they've even had problems like Darius, Big Mo. I'm not real comfy where Florida's at right now at all. It's very, very difficult. John Shields. The problem is both sides of trenches suck. Agree? If you want to talk defense, Farmer and Jackson on the middle will get penetration and will make a play, but then they just get gouged and get like turned sideways and washed down. Like technique is poor. Effort is not to where it needs to be consistently. And they're just not playing to their size. I mean, they're both really big guys, and Jackson's a little bigger, but Farmer's a big guy too. And they're not playing anywhere near their physical skill level. And that's frustrating. Just from somebody that's an analyst in general, if I turn on a game where I hate both teams, I still get mad when I watch a game and I know a guy's really talented and he's just stinking up the joint. Well, covering Florida State, I try to watch everybody. And right now, there aren't many things that I don't think aren't that way. It's like there are a handful of guys that are playing good, but like it's just not enough. And then probably the most talented unit on the team is DB, in my opinion. Like depth and everything. They're not getting into the action that much because, quite frankly, the other team doesn't have to throw. Here's a stat for you. Tech and BC both threw the ball 16 times against Florida State and won. Those are almost like option football numbers. It's brutal. It is absolutely brutal. So I'm not sure that it could really happen and work out for Florida State unless somebody really, really, really gets it going and quickly. I don't know. I really don't know what Florida State's going to do if they get down early. That's my other concern. They cannot play from behind with DJ and the way the receivers are going. Like Jalen Brown's not really ready yet. He's been starting. He's only got a couple catches, whatever. Kyle Morlock's got one catch for 12 yards. That's the only catch a tight end had. Like, there are so many holes in Florida State's offense. I just don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but they got to run it on first down. Quarterback play's got to get a little bit better for just sheer accuracy. I think they got to move the pocket a little bit, even if it's just semi-rolls, to make it harder to get blitzes into DJ's face. And then finally, they got to be creative. I mentioned this emphatically. Even if it's the same sets, they got to come up with some new plays where the players feel like they're going to hit big plays. Not maybe, not could be, not should be. Definitely. Like, they got to scheme something up because this offense just doesn't do well enough 5 to 8 yards at a time to gain it, to get those yards. I just don't see it. All right. Garrett says, what happened to Holmes? He looked decent last year, but a whole running back looks bad. Even with a bad line, you can get a few decent runs. Florida State's averaging 2.53. Keziah's still playing. I don't know what's going on. John Shields, Knowles punter equals MVP, no doubt. Mastromanno's legit. Like, he's going to get paid. He's a legit punter, and that's off to the man. Category 5, defense has got to get off the field, no long drives. That's the thing. Memphis is the kind of team that can do that. They can just nickel and dime you to death. I watched their highlights, some of their last 2 games. They will 4 to 8 yard you to death. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. If you get beat over the top, I mean, no question Seth Hennigan will hit it, but he's not going to force the ball. That's where he's dangerous. He's gotten to the point where he makes good decisions. He's okay if he throws it away. He's okay if they punt. Nick Saban used to say, I don't care if a drive ends with a punt, an extra point, or a field goal. I want that guy on the field for any of those 3. No turnovers. It's a good way to look at it. All right. Greg Brown from Spanish Town. I just don't think the players have an FSU culture. I think they play hired mercenaries with no passion for the team. This is something else I brought up. I don't think he's wrong here. I'll go into it a little bit more here in a minute, but some of Florida State's players just don't seem to have that oomph. Maybe not having Jared Verse there, maybe Jordan Travis, maybe Trey Benson, whatever it is, something's not there. Keon Coleman, there's just not the same accountability. Why? I don't know. It's been ridiculous, but that's what I see. And Florida State needs to figure that out, because if they don't, accountability and leadership are everything, man. You're just not going to get it done without it. So that is something very, 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 very concerning. All right. I hope that I'm wrong about that, and he is too. But again, culture not being right is going to cost you. When we come back, we're going to have another question about Florida State. That's here on Locked On Seminoles. You've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you right now through September 22nd. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV. Then you have YouTube TV's base plan. You'll be able to watch every single Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time that you would like. Just visit FanDuel.com, download America's #1 sportsbook. All right. Next up here, I don't see evidence, just from D-Will, I don't see evidence of development based on our depth. Why are limited players like Rob Scott have to contribute while Simmons and Armello watch? That's a good question. The O-line thing is goofy. I thought some of the younger guys might get a chance. They have not. I don't set the depth chart. I'm not the one at practice. I'm not the one that's teaching them. Who plays and who doesn't is a rather interesting question right now, though. I can certainly see where you're coming from. All right. For Florida State fans, what are you most concerned about regarding the program as a whole? This is the big enchilada question. Again, for Florida State fans, what are you most concerned about regarding the program as a whole? Is it recruiting? Is it development? Is it the portal? Is it NIL? Is it the grant of rights court case against the Atlantic Coast Conference? What are you most concerned about? I haven't come up with a concrete answer for those of you that think that this is easy. It's not for me. There are a lot of concerns that I have. Ranking them is hard, but I just wanted some feedback. I'll give my best shot at it here in a minute. So again, for Florida State fans, what are you most concerned about regarding the program as a whole? Here's my first take. I kind of agree with the comment a minute ago. Maybe it's recency bias that I'm picking up. But Florida State, honestly, do you really think that they're doing anything right now that makes you think that the team is bought in to playing for each other? It might be culture for me / NIL concerns, transfer portal. There's that culmination, that trifecta right there may not be a good one. I just don't see the same effort level out of Florida State, and I don't see the same level of play as it relates to something else that's really, really important. And that's just being clutch, man. Like, is there any point this year that you would have said, man, Florida State they're clutch right now? They did have the one drive towards the end of the Georgia Tech game where DJ hit both fourth downs. Hey, all due respect, he made those throws, good catches. They fought forward for yards, blah, blah, and tied up the game. Defense just didn't come up afterwards. So even a bigger drive, and then it didn't happen. A lot of problems, man. That's a lot of problems. What are you going to do about it is the other thing, though, because you're already into the season. You build a lot of your character and chemistry. Technically speaking, that stuff happens most often during the offseason, and then it just carries over into the season. It gets more fine-tuned as starting units are displayed, etc. I don't know how much character you can really get in the middle of the season, especially if it happens to be an NIL concern. Oh, boy. That gets really, really, really concerning. Let's see. Let's see. Guy Davis says recruiting. That's his biggest concern. Okay. Bashan 11, recruiting and development for now. If Hakeem or we go in the transfer for another top quarterback, that won't look good to me personally. I think there's a chance they hit the portal after this year. We don't know yet. Jim Truby, they need to start playing younger players. That's what they need to do. D-Will High School recruiting. Mr. Kool-Aid Maker, from 20 to 23, FSU signed 25 ESPN players, 13 remain on the team, and only 3 are starting. Development is missed. That is a great stat, man. Holy cow. I want to read that again. From 2020 to 23, FSU signed 25 ESPN players, 13 on the team, and only 3 are starting. That's not a good number, brother. Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Kool-Aid Maker. Jim Truby, that's why you can't live in the transfer portal. Every year you got to develop younger players. Bingo. I talked about that numerous times on this show leading into the spring game, then into the transfer portal window into the spring, and then into the recruiting months of June and July. And here we are in early September. They'd gotten lucky for a long time that the chemistry had worked out, and they obviously hit with talent. There's no doubt, especially last year. But it bit them last year because all those guys left too. They have, 13 guys go to NFL Combine? That's a lot. Garrett, I'm most concerned with recruiting. Even with a 13-0 season, we didn't get a top 5 class. That's true. We'll never be a consistent playoff contender until we can recruit with the big dogs. Very well said. There's nothing wrong with that post. That's a big concern for me. That is a big concern for me. Florida State needs to find a way to do that because let's be honest, they're recruiting well in certain ways, but then they just lost 2 guys, if you didn't see, this past weekend, including Javion Hilson, which Florida State needs pass rushers because they're going to lose some guys after this year. Look, they're not in a good spot, in my opinion. If they lose Myron Charles and Javion Hilson, which they both decommitted, Myron's going to Texas. I don't know what's going to happen with Javion yet. He's the defensive end from Cocoa, but they lose both those guys, and this class kind of goes in the direction it is. It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your number 1 listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in and talk some Noles football with me. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, rate and review, and share this podcast. Truly appreciate it, man. This is a lot of fun. Wish the news was better, but I am a very honest guy. I'm going to tell it like it is. So it is what it is, man. You can't do anything except tell the truth. People are going to call you out anyway. So amen at Jim Truby. Jim, again, that's why you can't, this is what he said, pull it back up. That's why you can't live in the transfer portal. Every year you got to develop younger guys. Guy Davis is the one that said amen to Jim Truby. It's true. Florida State is just not quite getting enough of the numbers, especially the upper end guys in recruiting like they did forever, it seemed like. In the 80s and 90s and 2000s, they're just not getting as many of those guys. Why? I don't know. But that's a problem. Let's see. Mike's message is relationships, but that only works when the money is there to get those guys to buy in. There are a few guys, the exception to that, Mr. Kool-Aid Maker. The guys just want to come in and get developed. But by and large, I think you're right. Again, his statement, for those that aren't watching on YouTube, Mike's message is relationships, but that only works when the money is there to get those guys in to buy in. Well, it certainly helps to have NIL to backing up your recruiting plans or your transfers for that matter. You've got to have it. If not, you're in trouble, especially with some of the big name guys. So I'm going to throw out something else again based on what's going on. Let's say Brock Glenn plays 2 or 3 games out of the next 4. Maybe not start, but he plays. Are you more likely to take a portal guy or no? Like unless he lights it. If he lights it up, obviously you don't have to. But if he's just so-so, do you rely on development since we're on that topic with recruiting? Or do you go and get another guy? it's been hit or miss with a lot of schools. Look at Riley Leonard at Notre Dame. He's terrible. So, and he also banged up now. But it's an interesting thing. DJ is R-rated, and other quarterbacks would have been benched. Well, is overrated. Yeah, like I don't know what to do because I just don't think he fits Norvell's offense. That's just my opinion. Will the fan base turn on Norvell if they lose to Memphis? I think they will to a certain degree. Some of them will. Diehards like Mike on this show, who comes on and comments after every time I put up a post, that's guy that's just going to be Florida State thick and thin. It's no-blooded. Okay, that's fine. But a lot of fans will. You cannot start 0-3. You cannot lose to a non-Power 4 team, especially the one you left. Come to Tallahassee to coach the Florida State Seminoles. Mike Norvell needs to win this game. A little reminder about what's coming up after Memphis. Cal at SMU, home to Clemson. Those are not, like Cal just went to Auburn and won. I was at that game. The quarterback started the game 20 of 22. I'm going to say that again. Fernando Mendoza, he's a kid from Miami Columbus that Florida State didn't go after, so he's going to remember that. 20 of 22 to start the game. He led Cal overall. Uh-oh. Mike hasn't proven he can develop, so what do you do? That's for Mr. Kool-Aid Maker. I don't know, man. I think they develop in a certain way, but they've relied on the portal more than most teams. That's a problem. But Sean, Nebraska seems what Norvell was aiming to look like. Probably, but Dylan Raiola is just better. He's got a better quarterback. Just my opinion. So take that for what it's worth. One last comment here before I wrap up the show. And again, thanks for everybody for showing up. Just wanted everybody to get a chance to vent and comment and everything. And please comment on YouTube and everything once the show is posted up on the site. But we've got to figure out a way here to score some points and make this exciting at least. Like Florida State's just not much fun to watch. It's so much better to watch football that like could put some points on the board. Right now, they can't do that very well. Let's see here. Mr. Kool-Aid Maker. We gave Mike Grace with the first 0-4 start and a Jacksonville State loss. He won't get a second chance. You get one shot at a big-time program to rebuild. That could be. Like if they started 0-5 or something, I think the wheels would come off. He'd be on the hot seat immediately. Problem is, who would you hire? And I'm not ready for that debate. I don't have any idea how that would go. Probably not well, but if you're in that realm, that's tough, man. Got to be careful what you ask for. But if you don't have a coach already lined up, it'd be pretty rough. So I wish I had more answers. I really do. But if they lose to Memphis this weekend, yeah, like it's just rough. It's just rough. So, well, I'm going to wrap up the show there. I thank everybody for coming in and talking a little Noles football. We had some fun. Truly appreciate it. Everybody have a good night. I will see you tomorrow. Make sure you're ready for a live show after the game. Sometime in the evening, I'll also have some other college football news in the evening after Florida State's game on Saturday. But look, they cannot play poorly against Memphis. They got to figure that stuff out, man. There is no doubt about it. Florida State, if they lay an egg, like it's one thing to lose, but if they look as bad as they did in certain points of the Tech game at BC, man, the Boo Birds, all that stuff are going to come out. Florida State fans won't tolerate, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them. So I'm curious to see how that goes. It's a sad state of affairs, to be really honest with you. With that, y'all have a great night. And again, thank you for stopping in, making Locked On Seminoles your first listen. Check us out again tomorrow. Y'all have a good evening.